Okay, I'm taking a break from the Mortal Kombat vs. Street Fighter because there was a little bit of a Twitter beef going on. I hate discussing Twitter beef. Where at WizCon in Chicago, CM Punk asked who he wanted to face from the Indies, and he said Samoa Joe, and they're like, well, he's in TNA, and he went, yeah, I said Indie, right? And then Kurt Angle took umbrage with that, going, what do you mean, TNA's? When I was in the E, and I was headlining, you wanted to get into the E. TNA's not the Indies. Later, of course, Kurt Angle kind of cooled off and was like, I'm sorry. But he did mention that if he saw CM Punk, he'd beat the crap out of him. Okay. One of the things I wanted to do a long time starting this Versus is I wanted to do it more in the way of wrestling. I've done almost a year of it, pretty close to it, with it being specifically superheroes and even movie characters and whatnot. So the problem is, in that 9-point scale, I have things like energy projection and versatility from an energy standpoint. And you really can't have that in a wrestling match. I mean, I don't expect, a Kamehameha wave to come from CM Punk or a Hadouken to come from Kurt Angle. It would be awesome if they could do that, but it's still in the realm of, physicality. So, I had to, yes, no iPad, I used an actual pad of paper. So what I decided was, I've got, I think it's 11 points. Strength, speed, endurance, toughness. Now we get into a whole technical category, where I have striking, grappling, submissions, high flying. So you're keeping track right now, you've pretty much got 4 that are physical, a total of 4 that has to do with overall fighting ability, and then the last 3, over with the crowd, ring psychology, how well can they really tell the story in the ring? How well can they go from selling a move to coming back from the move and getting the crowd really involved in it? And then finally, mic work. Who would actually have the momentum coming off of just the microphone work alone, the promos? Now, of course, this is Kurt Angle now. Angle now is in like his early 40s. He's had a lot of injuries, and he's also had some substance abuse problems in the past. So it says not Kurt Angle in his prime. My idea of Kurt Angle in his prime was during the Invasion storyline. Around that time, in the feud with Lesnar and the feud with Benoit, around that time when he was just everywhere. So that couple year span, from when he was the face of the WWE during the Invasion, to roughly around the time when he was feuding with Lesnar and became the general manager of SmackDown. That was kind of his highlight time right there. ECW time, you can tell he didn't feel it quite as much. This is CM Punk now. CM Punk now is very much in his prime. So here we go. Strength. When you compare these two, Kurt Angle is definitely a lot stronger than CM Punk. Speed. Angle's up there in years. Punk has got almost a decade of youth on him, and he's got a lot more quickness to him. Endurance. This is going to come into more of a factor when it comes to the overall age. Angle can still go. He can phenomenally go for someone of his age, but he will get tired before CM Punk does. Toughness. It is hard to get past the fact that Kurt Angle won Olympic gold medal with a broken neck. He is still probably one of the toughest people in a ring. So right after the first 4, we are tied up. Now we're going to the technical side. This is overall like the fighting abilities. First off, striking. CM Punk has a Muay Thai as well as a mixed martial arts background. Kurt Angle, not so much. So striking edge, CM Punk. Grappling. While CM Punk's pretty decent at grappling, he still falls more into the striker category, where Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist. Submissions. With this one, while Kurt Angle can do a great job of counter holds, his amount of submission techniques somewhat kind of lacking. This one I could easily go in either direction, but given that CM Punk has a higher degree of mixed martial arts training, we saw in Angle's heyday, Daniel Puder put him in a key lock and almost had to make Kurt Angle tap out. So Kurt, really great when it comes to the mat work. I'll have to give a slight edge just when it comes to the experience and the matches that CM Punk has had with people who have a lot more Japanese style. So he's got I'll give CM Punk a very slight edge. Very slight edge when it comes to submissions. Again, this one can easily go either way. High flying abilities. While Kurt Angle has probably one of the absolute best moonsaults in the business. Look it up. Look up that moonsault. He hits it beautifully. CM Punk, you got some springboard moves. Yeah, he does have probably one of the world's ugliest flying elbows. But he does have a couple more high flying moves. You're probably thinking, what about Kurt Angle's up the turnbuckle suplex? His up the turnbuckle suplex, I'll put that under the grappling side. So, after the first 8, the physical abilities and overall fighting abilities, CM Punk has got a lead. Could you very easily say, well, submissions can go to Kurt Angle? Yeah, you could, but that's one I could see going back and forth with. While Kurt Angle did have great feuds with people like Brock Lesnar and Benoit, he's had really good feuds too, also with Samoa Joe. Well, CM Punk had phenomenal hour-long matches with Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. Same with Kurt Angle. Then you throw in the Daniel Bryan mix. So CM Punk has faced a lot more people who have more of a submission style. Has he faced people who are probably every bit as dangerous as a Brock Lesnar or a Benoit? Potentially, yeah. There are some guys in Japan who have probably some of the world's best submissions, period. So, I'll stick with CM Punk having that submission edge, as well as the high flying edge. Over with the crowd. CM Punk being somewhat local, I grew up in Wilmington. I actually worked in Elwood and in Joliet. So yeah, I've kind of worked in the areas where CM Punk pretty much grew up. I normally say I'm from the Chicagoland area, even though I'm an hour south. So I do have that CM Punk local guy feel. And in Chicago, he is sick over. However, if Kurt Angle were to appear in an E-ring unannounced, that crowd would go absolutely nuts. So, over with the crowd. Angle. I think Angle still has enough star power that he would overshine CM Punk. While CM Punk has got a lot of great credibility, he still gets overshadowed by some of the much larger names. And kind of, as The Rock and Austin were trying to leave, Angle was right up there. Angle began to really fill that void, so he would definitely more with the crowd. Ring psychology. Punk tells a great story in the ring. He does. He's in the ring too with people who can't tell that good of a story. But if you have ever seen a Kurt Angle match, Kurt Angle knows how to tell a fantastic story in the ring. I will actually give him the ring psychology, bonus. Predominantly because too, when these two get into a ring, I do picture Kurt Angle having a slight intimidation factor edge. So, up to this point in time, we are entirely tied up 5 apiece. Now it comes down to, who do I think is better now on the microphone? Who would have more going into it from a promo standpoint? You're probably thinking everything else, all the physical stuff, with some of the emotional, psychological things thrown in there. But now it comes down to, who wins on the mic and can really get the momentum going forward going into the match? Who might be able to, while Kurt Angle has a great intimidation factor, CM Punk has got this great way of really getting under someone's skin. It could probably throw him off his game. That having been said, for mic work, I'm giving it to CM Punk. I think CM Punk has really come to his own recently. He has, and I think if Angle were to show up, he would entirely fall under the, I deserve respect because I'm the champion. I held this belt longer than anybody has in the past decade. I've held it longer than you. I've beaten the same guys you've beaten. I think that CM Punk would actually do a better job on the mic. We've seen him tear apart other people on the microphone. While Kurt Angle is good, he has kind of lost a step in the overall mic work. And I think that with somebody like CM Punk, who is not afraid to say anything, he will probably be able to rattle Kurt Angle when it comes to the mic. Might give him a stutter and stammer. So, if these two guys were to face, now, this is CM Punk in his prime, and Kurt Angle probably about 5 years past his absolute prime. Not saying he's not in phenomenal shape, not saying he's not one of the greatest wrestlers alive. He's on the other side of the bell curve when it comes to his career. If these two guys were to fight, I'm giving the edge to CM Punk. That's like saying these two people had an Iron Man match. Kurt Angle gets the first couple of pinfalls, CM Punk, they play catch up in the middle, and then towards the very end, CM Punk pulls it out. It'd be one of those sort of matches where it'd probably be, like 5-5, and then Punk get like a last minute pinfall. So it'd be like 6-5 with Punk winning.